We're less than 2 months away from UFC 314, and we still haven't got the update from Dana White on what the main event is going to be, what the co-main event is going to be. There's a bunch of unconfirmed rumored bouts for the fight card. We're going to go through this video and brainstorm. Maybe we got some information in the live stream last night from Sunday service that we can maybe dive into and try to figure this stuff out. Before we get into it, let's look at what the card looks like right now. So the rumored co-main event is Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France. I could see that actually being on the card, but supposedly Pantoja didn't know about it. Kai Kara-France seems like he's in, but Pantoja is a South Florida guy. It would make sense for him to defend his title in Florida, in Miami, in not a quick turnaround. I mean, it was in December, so it'd be about 4 months, but he didn't really take any damage from Kai Asakura, and Kai Kara-France with a big knockout over Steve Erceg. It makes sense for this matchup to be made. There's not a lot of contenders out there for Pantoja right now, so they got to throw Kai Kara in there coming off a win, even though he was back-to-back losses. But either way, I think that's a fight that we will see. If it's for the belt, then it's got to be the co-main event, and it makes sense. Don't know why it's still unconfirmed. Then we also have Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. Still don't know why that's unconfirmed. That seems like a pretty done deal because I'm pretty sure Gilbert is fighting Michael Morales. Pretty sure about that. We also have Nikita Krylov and Dominic Reyes. Solid fight. That'll be on the main card. Vernon Jandiroba, Yan Xiaonan. Keep that shit on the prelims. Chase Hooper, Jim Miller. Decent. Couple guys. Alberto Montes, South Florida guy making his UFC debut. You know, early prelim. Oh, Julian Erosa. My guy, Julian Erosa. Early prelim stuff right there. Yeah, let's keep that way down on the card. Don't want any of that creeping up towards the main card. But we got at least we got at least 2 slots to fill on the main card. So what could it be? We need a main event. What could the main event be? Well, if we look at what Bo Nickal said, he pretty much confirmed that UFC 314 would be headlined by Ilia Topuria and Alexander Volkanovski. That was back at the end of January. We're halfway through February. So why has that not been confirmed? And then we see on Alexander Volkanovski's YouTube page, his Instagram, he is in Thailand right now training for a fight. He's in fight camp. He is ready to go. So it looks like Volkanovski is going to be back. It looks like he's going to be back, but we still don't know who he's going to be fighting. Is he going to be fighting Ilia Topuria? It doesn't really seem like it. Because if we saw what they looked like at UFC 312, I did a whole video on this, but they were very friendly backstage. You know, when Alex's teammate, Colby Thickness, was fighting Ilia's brother, they were both in the corners. It looked like they were pretty friendly. It didn't look like 2 guys that were going to be fighting in a month or 2 months' time. So Volkanovski is in training camp. And then we look at where Ilia Topuria is at. It just doesn't really seem like he's ready for a fight right now. He was celebrating his first title win where he got the belt today. Then we look at the live stream from last night from Left Lane MMA. Supposedly he's in the know. Left Lane MMA, solid YouTube channel. Got to give him a shout out. He's come on the Long Shot live stream. Seems to be in the know about this. And he says 314 is Volk versus Diego Lopes for the undisputed belt. The undisputed belt. They're making Ilia move up and forced to vacate. To me, that doesn't make any sense. That makes absolutely 0 sense. But the part that doesn't make sense is the fact that Ilia would vacate his featherweight belt. Why would he vacate his featherweight belt? If he's going to move up to 155, don't they want to build that as a double champ opportunity for Ilia Topuria to move up to 155, keep his 145 belt, move up to 155, possibly beat Islam and be double champ? That makes no sense to me, but this part does make a little bit of sense to me. Volkanovski versus Lopes to fight at UFC 314 does make sense because if we look at Diego Lopes has been training for a while. He's been preparing for something. He was in Australia training with Peloton. That doesn't really say much, but he's always training. He's been training a lot on his wrestling at Oklahoma State University. That was 5 weeks ago. getting the wrestling in. He's always training, but it seems like he is preparing for something. He's in the lab. He's in the lab working on something. We haven't seen him in a while since UFC Noche or Noche UFC, however, Riyadh season, when he beat Brian Ortega. He's right in there for the taking. If I had to guess, I don't think they would just strip Ilia like that if he's going to move up to 155. So the possibility for a Diego Lopes versus Alexander Volkanovski title fight at UFC 314 does make a little bit of sense. But I think it would be for the interim belt. But can you headline a pay-per-view card with an interim belt? That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know if that would fly. I guess maybe if you have Pantoja on there as the main event for the undisputed belt, it could make sense. But even then, you know, the flyweight division is not really something that the UFC banks on as being the main event of a pay-per-view, let alone in Miami, which is a huge market, which they always try to stack the card. So then we got to look and be like, is there any way Islam Makhachev is fighting Ilia Topuria at UFC 314? Because they could do. Ilia Topuria moving up to 155, taking on Islam Makhachev. Double champ opportunity for Ilia. And then they have the interim belt with Diego Lopes and Alexander Volkanovski as the co-main event. That's a real possibility. Because if we look at the rankings, we look at who could headline as a title fight main event. It's not going to be John Jones. They're not going to make it a women's MMA fight. It's not going to be Poatan. He's fighting at UFC 314. It's not going to be Drakus. He just fought. It's not going to be Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad's probably not fully ready. I'm sure he could maybe make the turnaround. They're not going to make him the main event in Miami. It just makes no sense. Could it be Islam? Islam didn't take any damage against Moicano in January. So if he really needed to go, I'm sure he could go. But then who does he fight? Well, they're not going to match him up with Arman Tsarukyan. Probably not going to do Charles Oliveira. They're not going to do anybody else. So it would have to be Ilia Topuria. But if Ilia Topuria is not fighting on the card, then it'd have to be somebody in the featherweight division because Merab's not going to be fighting. Pantoja is already rumored to be fighting. So the only opportunity for a title fight bout on this card would be somebody from the featherweight division. Whether it's Ilia versus Volkanovski, that's what Bo Nichols said. I'm starting to doubt it. I don't really think that's going to happen. Could it be Volk versus Diego Lopes for the undisputed belt? Possibly. Could it be Volk versus Diego Lopes for the interim belt? Possibly. The best case scenario for the UFC would be for Ilia Topuria to take on Islam Makhachev. Big card in Miami to fight for double champ status. The problem with that, Islam's getting ready for Ramadan. Okay, Ramadan starts in 11 days, and it goes until the end of March. So does Islam want to be training for Ilia Topuria to fight on February 12th or 14th? When is it? Or March. No, not March. April. When is it? April 12th. Ramadan goes till Saturday, March 29th. So that would be about 2 weeks after Ramadan is over that he would be fighting Ilia Topuria, one of the scariest dudes that you can fight. Undefeated. Knocked out Max Holloway, knocked out Alexander Volkanovski. That's where I think the problem is. Because if the UFC wanted it their way, they would make Islam versus Topuria, UFC 314. They love to stack the Miami card. They always do. That's the biggest fight that they can make. It would sell like crazy. But the problem is Ramadan. Does Islam really want to be training throughout Ramadan, preparing for one of the scariest matchups that could come for him? Probably not. So, does it come down to Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes for the undisputed belt where they make Ilia vacate? I don't think they're going to make him vacate. So I think they could maybe do an interim title with Diego and Alexander Volkanovski. That makes somewhat sense. So there's your possible main event or co-main event if they do have Pantoja fighting Kai Kara France and they just make that the main event because it's an undisputed title bout. Then we also have Paddy Pimblett. This is the second fight that's the possibility out here. Paddy has made it pretty clear he's going to be fighting on UFC 314 in Miami. He leaked the main event. But does he know? Like, if this was so obvious that Ilia Topuria versus Volkanovski was going to headline UFC 314, why hasn't it been made yet? Why hasn't it been made? Like, that's a rematch. It probably wouldn't take too much of a talk to with either guy. Like, Topuria has already said that he's willing to give Volkanovski the second chance, but a lot of fans are just like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's not really going to be a fight. Like, Topuria's just going to go out there and knock him out again. So I think the UFC kind of knows that. And they're like, well, you know, we love Volk. He's done a lot for us, but maybe we could make something better. You know, Volk versus Diego Lopes is a great fight. So is Topuria versus Volkanovski 2 going to be the headliner? If it is, I don't know what's taking so long. I doubt it. I don't think that's the fight that's going to be made. But Paddy Pimblett, who is Paddy Pimblett going to be fighting? He said it was somebody in the top 8. Top 8. So if we look at the rankings, lightweight, top 8. We have Gamrot. We have Michael Chandler. It's not going to be Dan Hooker because Hooker's fighting Gaethje. It's not going to be Poirier because Poirier has said that he's not going to be fighting Paddy Pimblett. It's a Legends fight, Legends only. And Holloway versus Oliveira seemed like it's going to happen. So it really comes down to Michael Chandler or Mateusz Gamrot. Well, Gamrot is a South Florida guy, trains at ATT. Michael Chandler, South Florida. I don't want to say South Florida because he's more of a Tennessee guy, but he trains at Killcliff. So it's going to be one of these guys. If I had to guess, well, this is really what it came down to. I'm not going to guess because I already know. But either way, UFC 314 is going to be a very solid fight card, and I just need to get this announced. I'm assuming they're waiting until they can announce the main event, co-main event, and the feature bout to get it all in one video, one viral video. And I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say main event is going to be Alexander Volkanovski. Actually, no. Main event is going to be Alexandre Pantoja, Kai Kara-France. Interim belt, co-main event, Diego Lopes, Alexander Volkanovski. That's what I'm going to put out there. That's what I'm going to throw out there. It could stick. Maybe if they do the undisputed belt, then obviously Volkanovski and Diego would be the main event. But that's what we're looking at right now. We're less than 2 months away. Let me know in the comments what you think it's going to be. There's a lot that could happen, a lot of different matchups, whether Islam's going to be fighting Topuria, if Topuria is going to be on the card, if Topuria is fighting Volkanovski. To me, it just doesn't seem like Topuria versus Volkanovski is going to happen. Like, if it was supposed to happen, why hasn't it happened yet? Maybe they're just waiting to announce everything, but very interesting stuff. Thought it was interesting in the live stream. Let me know if you enjoy the video. Like the video for me. Subscribe to the channel. Till next time, hey, Job Picks. We out.